Hi, and welcome to week three, interpreting the Old Testament narrative and law. Primarily, narrative is what we're going to be looking at, and we're going to be exploring the sacrifice of Isaac. Now, we have a couple of assignments. Assignment 3-1 is a paper where you're to identify and discuss various aspects of plot, character, time, and dialogue with regard to Genesis 22, 1 to 24. Now, this is to be a two-page paper, but to do a thorough job, most students run over that. And as I've mentioned before, I don't count on page count. If you can do it in 1 page or 10 pages, I will read whatever you put together, but I want a thorough treatment of the material. And so you're going to do a full narrative analysis of this passage. And that means that you're going to need some outside research, you're going to need biblical support, you're going to need your own thoughts, you're going to need some personal reflection, you're going to need some engagement with the reading, but all of those things coming together to really tear apart this narrative and identify who are the characters? How do the characters get used in order to develop a plot? Where is the climax of the plot? How is time used? And for time, especially in a master's course, I actually have this same assignment or a similar assignment in my undergraduate course this week. And but for you, we should begin to dig deeper. And so for time, it's how does God inspire the human author to use verbs. And verbs to me are the key to time because verbs are our action words. And so how do we go from a nice flowing scene where we have lots of dialogue and lots of this and lots of that, and it moves rather slowly and we get lots of depth to, and he came and he walked and he cut and he did this and he did that and he did the other. And you can see the difference just in the way I was talking, that as you read this passage, there are points where there are long sentences, and there are points where there is staccato, verb after verb after verb, moving the plot forward. And so how does God use time? And think of it as, at least I like to think of this assignment, and I love this passage, as almost if you were to create a TV show out of this passage. How would your scenes be cut? For instance, at one point, we have, he gets up in the morning and all these things happen, and then all of a sudden it's 3 days later. And so you have this scene where you're looking in, and then it fades to black, we have a commercial, and we come back and it's 3 days later. And so how is God inspiring the use of time as part of the way this narrative is put together? What does the editor, God in this case, in inspiration through the Holy Spirit to the person who wrote it, how is that being crafted in order to be impactful to us? How is the dialogue created? What is said? What isn't said? Who has dialogue? Who doesn't have dialogue? And how does that all fit together? So this is a fun assignment. It's actually a rather deep assignment. You could write a 20-page paper on this, and I think I did in grad school at one point. It's just a very cool narrative to spend time on. So enough about that. Please note the example of narrative analysis provided in the course lecture entitled Interpretation of Old Testament Narrative. As always, this assignment is due on Monday at midnight Central Standard Time. Now, we have a very similar discussion post this week, which will allow you to actually put out some ideas on Friday, perhaps get some comments back from other students over the weekend before you finalize your paper on Monday. So the discussion post will help or may help as you create your paper. So having completed the interpretation assignment for this week, which is a goal, but I'm not sure that everyone will have completed it by Friday. But at least be sure you've done the reading and have begun to formulate your assignment. Think about how the narrative demonstrates an aspect of God's character. Now, God is a character, but in this case, we're talking about attributes of God. Try to complete the following statement. Based upon my reading of Genesis 22, 1 to 24, I understand that God is a God who blank. So I want to know what attributes or attribute of God you find based upon this assignment. Now, when I say you find, I am saying you find as an informed decision, meaning you find after biblical research and engaging with biblical passages, after outside research and engaging with outside research in your post, and engaging in the course reading in your post. So it's your informed decision. What do you believe this narrative tells us about the attributes of God? As you complete the statement, try to keep in mind the manner in which the narrative portrays the relationship between God, humanity, and or the world. So this is what do we learn about God in context based upon Genesis 22, 1 to 24. All right. As always, be sure to use citations. Be sure that they're correct. This class has done a great job with that. Include outside research. That's a key to the grading on both assignments for me. Engage with biblical passages. That's another key to the grading that I'll be doing this week. Feel free to call me or email me with any questions. I'm in one place this week in Antigua, and I'm here as you need me. So have a great week. I thank you for all the hard work you're putting in this semester, and I'll talk to you soon.